Welcome to the Russ Joy Show. I'm not sure you figured that out because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. I was also trying to adjust good old Twitter over there. Been some issues getting some things to stream correctly from the studio to Twitter, but we're good. We're here. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope you're having a fantastic Friday. Don't forget, it is a fantastic Friday. If your day started off poorly today, I want you to remember it's going to turn around because for some reason you decided this morning or this afternoon, whenever early in the podcast feed or YouTube or whatever, but for right now, we're going to say right now, you decided to tune in and bring a little bit of joy to your life. And that is what I am here for. I am here to bring some joy to your day on a fantastic Friday. Now, joining me shortly will be Colby Cohen, who's wrapping up Morning Cuppa Hockey over on Daily Faceoff. He will be here in a little bit because we got to talk about a few things related to the Flyers. Most notably, they came back last night. They looked like they were going to lose their game last night against the Rangers. They fell behind 2-0 to the Rangers. I started getting a text from friend of the program, AJ, who's over in the comments every so often, who is a Rangers fan and was actively pissed off that his team was leading that game. And then I said, oh, don't worry, the Flyers are going to flyer. It'll be fine. And I had turned the game off for a minute. I turned it back on. It was 2-1. And I said to my wife, well, on a positive note, I picked the Flyers to lose 3-1, so an empty netter in the third, and I'll be on my way. Literally 5 seconds later, Trevor Zegras netted a goal to tie the game. Now, last night's game, if you're a Flyers fan, makes you feel really good. 2 goals by Michkov. We'll get into that in a second. It was not the greatest start. You do see Sam Ersson have moments where you once again want to smash your face through a wall. And yet, the Flyers beat arguably the worst or one of the worst teams in hockey at Madison Square Garden in the Big Apple. And so you can look at this one of two ways. If you are totally team tank, well, then every win is a loss. And if you're somebody who is insane enough to think that the Flyers have what it takes to be not just a team that can qualify for the playoffs, but can somehow win around in the playoffs, well, every win is a win for you. Although I think psychiatric evaluation is probably not a terrible idea for you as well. Now, one thing that I do want to note to everybody, we will be talking more about this Flyers game. But there's also some interesting things going on around that U.S. Olympic team. And the media has gone absolutely crazy. Now, you guys know I'm pretty damn apolitical on this show, and I'm not going to start towing a line. But like when Colby comes on, I think we'll have a conversation about it because some of the Canadian media has gone batshit crazy. There are a few American outlets that have also kind of gone loopy, but Canada is going crazy right now. Austin Matthews, Brady Tkachuk, some stories that have been written, some questions that have been asked. The Canadian media even kind of like had this weird exchange with Connor McDavid a few nights ago. We're going to get into all of that when Colby's here. Also on today's show, we're going to talk about the NFLPA grades for each team getting leaked. The NFL is pissed. I don't know if I said NHL or NFL, but the NFLPA grades were leaked, and the NFL is irate about it. They sent a letter to all the teams about how this should not happen. So we're going to take a look because there were a couple of grades that the Eagles got that I found very interesting, most notably head coach, offensive coordinator, the way that the team treats families. And I also want to take a look at how the head coach did relative to the GM and the owner of the team, which is where I certainly felt like things were kind of wonky. And it's telling because it came from the players. And maybe it proves that there is a disconnect between the media narrative around the Eagles and what the guys in that locker room feel like. So we'll get there. And we also have to talk about the Sixers because Joel Embiid had another strong performance. VJ Edgecombe continues to kind of take that next step forward. Kelly Oubre had a good game. And Tyrese Maxey set an all-time record for the Sixers at the very young age of 25. I mean, We talk a lot about what Tyrese Maxey is and what he means to this team and why there's so much hope that even if the Embiid and Paul George era here towards the end, if it doesn't go particularly well, why you feel so positive, and it's because of Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. You look back at what happened on Thursday night, and it is another glimpse at why people want to believe that this iteration of the Sixers might not be the one that gets to an Eastern Conference final, gets to an NBA Finals, hoists the Larry O'Brien trophy, but maybe that backcourt a few years down the line, once some money is off the books, that team maybe has an opportunity to take a deep playoff run. So we'll talk about that as well. And we'll get to anything else that you guys want to get to today. Also, Travis Konecny had some very interesting comments about the Flyers roster construction. I think I might... we'll do that, I think, as well when Colby gets here. So he'll be here in a little bit. I know that they were doing a Friday episode, which I don't think Morning Cup of Hockey usually does Friday shows, but I tuned in this morning. I was listening to it. They had a guy on who's a Leafs contributor or a Leafs fan or something, and that guy had quite the language meter on. I was like, oh. And then Emily Kaplan was on. I was like, okay, that's very different. But we need to, we'll dive into all the hockey talk. Now, I do want to go out to the comments here as we await on Colby, and then once he gets here, we'll advance the conversation forward. All right, here we go. Jim Pine 518 over on YouTube asks, do we know Michkov's BMI? I will say that I always find it really funny. There'll be a bit of information that comes out about a player, right? It happens every time. There will be a conversation point, a talking point about a player that no one apparently was privy to, and then you just start to hear it pop up. And a few weeks ago, it was right before the Olympic break, the body fat percentage of Matvei Michkov came up. And then it started to feel like media people who hadn't talked about it previously, now everybody's got, what was it, 23%, 25%. They wanted him at 15% or whatever. You started hearing more and more media people throwing that number out there. And then I have to question, where did that come from? And why is it coming out now? We probably should talk about Rick Tockett's post-game comments about Michkov's overtime winner as well. We'll do that in a little bit. Chris Reed over on YouTube asks, so will we see AEW cards from time to time on CBS after the Paramount deal is completed? Well, it's actually a pretty interesting conversation point there, too. So you've got what was believed to be pretty much a done deal between Netflix and Warner Brothers Discovery, and it went up in flames. And this entire time, if you remember, and I think I said this on the show way back when. You can go find the segment. We can have a conversation about it. But I didn't think Netflix was ultimately going to get WBD because Paramount, for whatever reason, kept throwing in more and more money into a potential deal. They talked about trying to save the linear networks. If you remember, Netflix didn't care about Warner Brothers Discovery's linear TV networks. They really just wanted the rights to streaming the intellectual property. It seemed like they were eventually going to fold HBO Max into Netflix, but they were going to allow them to run as an independent app for a while. I guess akin to how Hulu and Disney Plus and ESPN Plus all operate on the same platform. But Paramount came back through with an absolutely bananagrams offer. And I'll pull it up here, but there are people, once again, who are upset about this. On one hand, there was a real concern that if Warner Brothers Discovery had sold to Netflix, that it was going to spell the death of going to the movie theater. It was going to spell the death of people seeing movies in that way. You were going to see all these shutdowns. A lot of people were going to lose their jobs. And it was going to, potentially lead to, would Netflix increase their prices exponentially since going to the movies wasn't a thing anymore? Well, now you have other people who are kind of losing their mind on political lines because if Paramount were to acquire WBD, well, then that means that Paramount, who owns CBS, who have had some run-ins with the current administration, they're going to then have CNN under their umbrella. And now you have people saying, oh, CBS and CNN are now going to be state media. I'm not saying that. The people who are detractors of the deal say that. I think on the whole, though, Paramount getting WBD from a consumer perspective is probably better. I like the idea of them still keeping the TV stations in line. Even if you're a streamer or a cord cutter, I still like the idea of them keeping that. I still like the idea, presumably, of either Paramount Plus and HBO Max remaining separate entities, but still under the same umbrella. If they fold them together, it's not the worst thing in the world. I think HBO Max has better reach right now. Remember, UFC is the one that signed that massive lucrative deal with Paramount Plus. So all of the numbered events are over on Paramount Plus. So that'll be interesting to see. The reason that Chris asks is because obviously I'm a pro wrestling fan. So AEW is folded under Warner Brothers Discovery. There was also the report not that long ago that WBD has a minority stake in the ownership of AEW. So that could be interesting. People were kind of questioning whether or not that was a good thing or a bad thing. Paramount has the deal with UFC, which is under TKO, who owns WWE. Okay, we don't need to go down all these rabbit holes. But like I look at it and it doesn't freak me out, but I will note, apparently in the original offer, the original version of this deal, Paramount offered $108.4 billion. They enhanced that offer to $111 billion, okay? That's bananas. Netflix only offered $82.7 billion, okay? I'll use this graphic from Morning Brew, and this maybe will give you a better idea of what this deal ultimately looks like. Let's go over here. So we'll give the shout to Morning Brew for putting together a nice graphic. All right, here's how this went. I'll take the comments down for a second. So if this is to be believed, Paramount's original offer was $108.4 billion, $30 per share, all cash. They enhanced it to $111 billion. They also, they're talking about this HBO Max, TNT, Discovery, Bleacher Report, HGTV, CNN, all the Warner Brothers stuff and more. They're talking about all of that being folded into this deal, whereas you can see on the bottom, Netflix really only wanted the Warner Brothers Discovery intellectual property, and they wanted HBO and HBO Max, and then felt like there was a good chance that everything else was going to go the way of the dodo, or Warner Brothers was going to have to do something with the linear networks and do something with the news channels and HGTV and Discovery and all that other stuff. Now, it's all cohesive. The interesting thing, maybe, I guess, possibly, if you were a college basketball fan, if you were a sports fan in general, there's some unique crossover potential now between CBS and Turner Sports. Does that change things going forward? I don't know. If this deal had happened a year ago, does the NBA decide to leave Turner Sports? Does Turner manage to keep the NBA if they have both Paramount and WBD in the fold? I don't know. I'll tell you what I do know. I see a guy waiting backstage, and there he is. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Colby Cohen. He just wrapped up a show over on Morning Cup of Coffee over at Daily Faceoff. It was a little bit of a heated moment, the first half of the show. Very heated about the Maple Leafs. Who knew that a team that's so irrelevant would get so much consternation from the guests? Who knew, Colby? How are you?
I'm good. I'm always happy to come on this show. And, I knew that the hour and change I just did, like I had to make sure that I built my energy up, because anytime I come on with you, like I got to have energy, because you got to be able to at least come close to matching the enthusiasm that you bring to the show every day.
I've got no energy. I've got no enthusiasm. The world is burning. Didn't you know that, Colby? Didn't you know that everything's gone to hell in a handbasket? Haven't you taken a look at social media the last week or so, Colby?
Yeah.
The world has ended. I don't know if you knew this or not. The entire planet has actually, we are jettisoning ourselves into the sun. It's all over. It's been nice knowing you.
It's really, it felt like that for a couple of days. And then I'll tell you, like, I restored all of my faith. And who would have thought a guy who grew up in Villanova, PA, right down the road from the Core State Center, would be calling the fans of Pittsburgh people that restored my faith in humanity when they gave an away player the standing ovation that he deserved. I absolutely loved seeing that. It was a great reminder that what we see on social media really, really doesn't depict real life. And it's so nice to get those wake-up calls, because you get deep in it and you're like, holy shit. Like, I have 2 young children. What does the future hold for them? But then you see all those great fans in Pittsburgh. When you see them in New Jersey, you see them in these different places. You see what they did with Florida last night, and giving the veteran the flag. I mean, and it just restores your faith that social media it's a fake place. Instagram is fake. Twitter, it's just not real, guys. It just isn't.
Well, I guess we're going to find out. It's Saturday, right, is when the Senators are in Toronto to take on the Leafs. We'll see We'll see how bad things are, I guess, up there. And if that turns out to be a normal atmosphere, then I think you're 100% right. I will be interested to see like what that's going to look like. Now, I don't want to dive super far into all of the insanity with you. We could do a little bit of it, right? Like I think you're ready to move on. However, there are some things that like we got to take a look at. We got to call out because some of it is lunacy. There are some clips going around that I saw last night that I was like, yo, we have officially reached peak insanity, apparently in Canada, like some unhinged insanity. So we'll get there in a second. Now, I do want to start off with what happened last night in Philadelphia. You led your show with it. Matvei Michkov has 2 goals on the night. He scores on the power play. He's down low on the right side. He said the other day to the media when they came back and Slava was available to translate, because apparently, Colby, I don't know if you know this, there's nobody else in the world who can speak Russian or translate Russian for Matvei Michkov. The Flyers haven't figured it out yet. It's Slava or bust. They speak a language that only those two do. He said he's more comfortable on the right. He's always played on the right, but he needs to learn how to play on the left. Cool. So on the power play, he scores down low on the right side. Everybody feels good. Zegras has a really great moment, great goal. And then in overtime, you go in, you're on the PK because Michkov took a penalty at the end of regulation. Michkov, there is no world in which Michkov is on the ice at that point in overtime had it not been for taking a penalty. No chance on God's green earth. We've seen how Rick Tocchet likes to deploy him in overtime or not deploy him at all in overtime. Michkov comes out of the box. He's on the ice for a little bit. It's not like it was just a breakaway because he was cheating out of the box. He makes a really good play, gets around a Ranger, and goes down the left side and goes 5-hole.
Yeah.
Wins the game, and all of a sudden, it feels like, boy, Michkov found something maybe over this Olympic break. Your initial thoughts there?
Yeah, well, look, I know we were texting about the night before about the goal, the empty net goal, where I again, like I didn't like the play. I didn't like the read. And so I was like, like more of the same. But I look, we started the show talking about Michkov. Like if we're going to be hard on the kid, then we have to make sure when it's good, we talk about how good it is. And, the play that he makes against JT Miller, like the things that you like about it are, you're right. He didn't wait in the neutral zone for a loose puck. He went back into the middle of the pile. And if you watch, he digs the puck out, right? Like he gets strong on his lower hand. He digs the puck out. And then he has that little speed burst against JT Miller. Now, to be fair, Miller's been on the ice for 2 minutes, and I think Miller played it like an idiot. He should have just backed up. When you're exhausted, you don't go for broke. But JT Miller's got a strong stick. He's a heavy player. So when he goes and makes that swipe towards Michkov, Michkov is able to accelerate, number one, and use that right leg to make sure he kind of use it as a buffer so the stick becomes irrelevant. And then he is able to, have a little bit of a speed burst. It's honestly like a video game where you're clicking that little speed burst button, and that's what you saw from Michkov. And most of the best players in the National Hockey League get faster with the puck, and then everybody else either slows down or just really can't hang on to it at that pace. So when you see him make a play like that, you feel like, okay, there's that talent we want to see. It also buys him more opportunities in overtime because, we live in a day-to-day cycle of pro sports, and you put together a game like that. Well, the next time you get into overtime, it's like, okay, you draw the memory bank, you look at how he played in the last overtime, and then you take advantage of it. Look, how many players in the history of our game, Russ, and like I always go back to Brad Marchand and like how he did it. Marshy's become a Hall of Famer. But I just remember Marshy was a 4th liner his first year up out of Providence and a 3rd liner his second year, and he never even sniffed the power play. Now, granted, he wasn't a top 5 pick, right? And he was a different player when he was first coming in, but guys have their journeys, right? And they've got to find their way, and he had to kind of earn those moments. Well, Michkov goes out in overtime, and he takes advantage of a lucky bounce, just like Tom Brady took advantage of an injury all those years ago and turned himself into the greatest football player of all time. So good for him for being opportunistic. Good for him for scoring on that play. And look, now you give Rick Tocchet something to think about every time overtime comes around here for the next 20 whatever games they have left.
You certainly hope he has to think about it. I mean, this is the interesting quote that came out after the game. We'll give the shout to Charlie O'Connor here for the transcription. But he asked Tocchet if the goal earned Michkov more overtime work. Quote, "Oh, yeah, I mean, sure, we were talking about that over the break. We've lost, 11 overtimes? So we've got to try some different things. I think Matvei is skating better, so that's going to help. But yeah, definitely." Now, there's a critical way to look at those comments, and then there's like a normal way. I don't know which way to go on it. He's skating better. They came back. It's the first game back, right? And so the people who are unbelievably critical, and I know that you're aware of this because you're in the area and you see the online discourse, there are those who would ask, why even mention that he's skating better? Like here, this is where I think the Flyers just need to have this like come to Jesus moment with Rick Tocchet, right? Like they sucked at getting Tortorella reined in at all. Like for whatever reason, I have a few ideas of why, but like they could never get Torts on the same page with what he was saying publicly. And he had a certain level of gravitas and a certain level of success that you just kind of let Torts be Torts. Here's all Rick Tocchet has to say. This is why I get so frustrated that like he worked on TV and he's got to be more media savvy. This is what you say. Matvei spent the last few weeks, he worked his ass off. He talked to you guys about it the other day. He looked really good tonight. Happy to see him come into this, backstretch of the season looking like this. If he plays like that, yeah, he's going to get more overtime opportunities for sure. That's it, right? Like, he's skating better. Cool. That almost harkens back a little bit to the stuff that he said throughout the early part of the season and then even going into the Olympic break. Like, you have to get on message. I think that's the one thing where the Flyers have kind of failed this kid this year is the messaging has been largely negative from the coach or has been perceived as largely negative. And then the kid hasn't had the opportunity to voice his side of things because for the past month, they haven't had a translator in place because Slava was over at the Olympics. And it's insane to me that they have not figured out a fill-in for Slava when he's gone. Like it seems nuts.
Well, I could say this, couple things. It's funny, like Slava's name always comes up as a translator because when I was towards the end of my career, I would work with Slava one-on-one. Like I did skating work with him towards the end of my career. Like when I was coming back from my last sports hernia surgery, or maybe it was my second hip surgery. I don't remember which one. Yeah. Once I got cleared, I worked with Slava like all summer. I enjoyed working with him as a skating coach, by the way. I mean, he was like one of the few skating coaches I ever worked with that wasn't, his whole MO wasn't to just show me how good of a skater he was. It was actually like to let me do the work. A lot of Russian skating coaches are like that. They're like, watch me work. We had this guy Besa in Boston who would do shit, and we would all be looking at each other, and we would just like look at Chara, and we'd be like, you gonna do that? like what are we doing here? So I love that Slava has become the translator and no longer the skating coach or the skills coach. So we could start there, but like, I don't understand that. I think they should have him. This kid is such a star in this city that he should have someone with him at all times.
Correct.
And I don't disagree with you. I don't think Rick Tocchet is a media savvy guy. I don't even think he was when he was on TV. You go back to Rick Tocchet's days on TNT, like he was not the smoothest talker on there. His info I always loved when he had the whiteboard because he's an NHL coach. I want to know what he thinks. But his delivery was never great. He had a lot of choppy moments on there. So I don't actually look at him as a media savvy guy. I know everybody else does and thinks that he should be. But if you really go back and watch the tape, like he was not, delivery was never great. Info was great when he was on TNT. The discourse between him and Biz, that was great.
That was great.
But I agree with you. For a team that has veteran communications people behind the scenes, and they're people who are very well respected in the game of hockey that run the communications department in Philadelphia. I know some people have retired in the last couple of years, but they're really, again, I've never dealt with them like you have, so you may have a different experience. My experience is like, I think these are people who really truly know what they're doing. Why has the messaging not been better? And why have they not been linked up? I have been in the room in one of the organizations that I worked for as a TV person where they were crafting messaging that we, even as broadcasters, had to go on TV and make sure we worked the messaging in. Okay. This was messaging that the management had, the scouts had, you name it. I mean, we're talking bullet points. So it does happen, people. And that's why I'm always hypercritical of messaging, because I think most of it's always bullshit. But You're right. The messaging has not been consistent and it has not been cohesive. And I think it's kind of created their own problems in a lot of ways.
It has. It's the thing I always come back to. Unforced errors are ridiculous. Like when so much of the issue that the public has is an unforced error. And in this case, like, again, it's just the messaging. Like, and I know there are the people who are on the other side of this who are like, why would you even bring it up? Why would you care what Tocchet had to say? Why do you care about the exact verbiage? You're making a mountain out of a molehill. I get that. But it's this like final stretch. I argued on Snow the Goalie the other night about the idea of developing Michkov versus developing the rest of the team. Does the team have to develop? Yes. Are there guys on the team that have to develop? Yes. Do you make one guy's development the key focal point at the expense of everyone else? No. But you do have to look at it holistically and say, Michkov and what he theoretically can be to this team and bring to this team and help them try to contend for an extended period of time, his development is more important than Bobby Brinks or Owen Tippett's or even guys who are vets on the team. It's more important than what you're able to do with Travis Konecny, right? Like, Konechny's an important guy, but like, we know what Konecny is as a player. There's not like two more levels for him to get to. Michkov, you got to figure out how to maximize him. And I do think it was encouraging. He got a power play opportunity. He had that spot where he's, in pretty close to the net, an area that no one on this team wants to go to. He rams one home. Great. Yeah. And then if you're looking for a positive, as if an overtime winner isn't enough, he goes down the left side where this coach has been determined to have him play, and he beat one of the best goalies. I mean, like, what are you going to do? So like, it's all good stuff.
Made that look
He did. He made it look, and he was decisive about it too. Yeah. So many of these guys, right? Like they get that opportunity late in a game and they overthink it, and then half the time you don't even get a shot off. So thought all that was good. Now I do want to note really quickly on the Slava translator thing. I went into this in detail 2 weeks ago over on Snow the Goalie with Ant and Jackie Spiegel of the Inquirer. There's this like misconception about what a translator is, right? You speak the language, and then there's a totally different skill set to be a translator. Translators have to have the nuance of the language. They have to understand regionalisms. They have to understand dialect. There's so much that can get lost. Because I saw this by WAJ, who said, my wife is Russian and she was a teacher. She was on the couch, and multiple times she noticed that the translation with Slava was not accurate. Now, there are a few different reasons for that. Slava's not a translator. Slava is a skating coach. Slava is a guy who happens to speak Russian, but he's not a translator. And he probably, to some extent, is also trying to filter a little bit of what's being said.
Absolutely.
And that is part of what your job as a translator, if you're employed by the organization, is to do. If the player does say something that's a bit complicated or a little bit controversial, you do have this ability to kind of filter that out so that it doesn't become a pissing match between the coach and the player. You don't want that. And so, I think it's important to kind of note, too, it's one skill set, and two, there's probably a little bit of that filtering being done. Now, so where I was at on Michkov, I'm happy to see he had the opportunity. He made it count last night. He had a bunch of OT winners last year for this team, too. It's not as if he hasn't proven that he can perform at that level in those key moments of a game. But I do have to take you, Colby, to what's happening in the hockey world. And I'm hoping that this many days out of the gold medal game, we can finally get to a point where the insanity dies down a little bit. But I've seen some stuff that made me lose my mind. So I want to kind of go through this a little bit with you, and then maybe that's that. But Brady Tkachuk and Austin Matthews have been put in some really weird positions with the media. I'll start here. There was a story that was put out by the Toronto Star by somebody who has been covering the NHL and hockey for 3 decades. And I'm not even going to go into the story itself, but rather just the headline of the story was insane. Austin Matthews made his choice, seemingly putting the party and the president ahead of the playoffs. What are we What are we doing? I mean, the captain of arguably the most important, or certainly the Canadians would likely say the most important team in the country, or the one that has the most insane following, you're going to ostracize your captain because of the decision to go to the White House. Like, that feels a little bit goofy. And then Austin Matthews was asked about it in the locker room yesterday. And so I just want to give like a very brief clip here of what he had to say to the media, the rationale of why he decided to go, why he thinks the team decided to go. And then I want to get your thoughts on it. This was Austin Matthews with the opportunity to speak to the Toronto media. Let's dive into it. Here he is, the Maple Leafs captain.
What's special, I think, all of us are proud Americans, and, doing something like that, winning a gold medal, obviously representing your country, felt like it was a special honor to be invited. I mean, it's an honor. So it was pretty neat to go there and see everything and just kind of get to share that experience with everybody.
You had the invitation?
I mean, I think it's not, to me, I don't like to get political or get into that kind of stuff. I mean, like I said, we're proud Americans, and, winning a gold medal, it's been 46 years since the men's ice hockey team has done that. So, the team that wins the Stanley Cup every year accepts the White House invitation to go. So, I just think it's something that you do, because we are proud Americans, and whatever your political beliefs may be. Hopefully something like this will, hopefully bring more unity to the country and stuff like that. But
okay. That's about as perfect of an answer as he could have given, right? Like,
yeah.
Am I nuts?
No, it's like you wouldn't want your captain to answer that question any other way. And, look, it's, these guys are going to be faced with these questions because people have an agenda with their writing and with their questions, and saying that he didn't, it's not like he missed a game. Some guys, the Vegas guys, they didn't jump right back in. Yep. Austin Matthews was right back out on the ice with his team. He didn't miss a game. Okay. Yeah. Quinn Hughes didn't miss a game. Right. So look, there's no accountability to being truthful. Russ, there was a guy in Canada named Steve that was talking about tanks on his door.
Hey, no, I got it queued up. All right, let's go to, hold on. I needed to like see this. I needed to feel this. This is one of the most unhinged things. Are you okay if I play this? Are you all right?
Go ahead.
Because this will give the context. This is how insane things have gotten. What's the guy, Steve Dangle or whatever? I don't know I don't know what he does, but apparently he's got a following, and God love the people who decide to follow this shit. But here's Steve Dangle.
Hey, we look forward to the U.S. Beating our soon-to-be 51st state, Canada. You fucking asshole. We'll never be your 51st state. Mm-hmm. And that's got nothing to do with hockey. Mm-hmm. That's got everything to do with you motherfuckers showing up at our front door with guns.
Oh,
and tanks and shit. Of course.
Colby, we showed up there with guns and tanks and shit. All right, let's keep going.
We're going to feel a certain type of way about that. Mm-hmm. And you're the captain of a Canadian NHL team, Austin, Brady.
Oh.
Connor Hellebuck might as well be.
Quinn until a couple months ago.
Quinn until a few months ago, and you shook hands with that motherfucker? Fuck you. That dude threatened the place where I live. And
did he threatened with bombs, I guess, Colby. Did that? I think I missed that.
Actively continues to do so. Uh-huh. And I'm supposed to just look at you and feel fine about that? Fuck you.
Hold on, I want to re-rack this one part. This one.
Actively continues to do so.
Here we go.
And I'm supposed to just look at you and feel fine about that?
Yeah. Here's an idea, Steve Dangle. Here's just an idea. Shut your fucking mouth. You're an idiot. You're a genuine moron. If you are going to somehow try to like equate whatever's happening here to like a conflict in the Middle East or Russia, Ukraine, the U.S. showed up with guns and tanks. Are we so far into like some kind of state media, Colby, that like I've totally missed the mark here? Did somebody line up and like the Mounties are standing there with maple syrup in hand, saying, "Oh no, sir, don't fire at us. We're just here for your pancakes." Like what? Like, what did I miss? Was there something horrible I told? Like, yeah, here's an idea. Just shut the hell up. If you're that upset, you could be upset. If you want to run Austin Matthews off the Leafs, I'll tell you what. There are a whole bunch of teams south of the border that'll happily take him. You want to run Brady Tkachuk out of Ottawa? Guess what, man? The Flyers would be happy to have him. A lot of teams in the U.S. would be happy to have him. You want to run Connor Hellebuck out of Canada? Go right ahead. I think there are a lot of teams that would love to have him in net. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing?
I still have to hope that you're just dealing with a couple of blowhards who are looking for clicks and looking for viral videos, and he's getting his viral moment, and he's, Mr. YouTube, but this, like, the hysteria and the stupidity of that is it's mind numbing. It really is. I mean, just the stuff on all over. But like I said, the fans of this great game have been showing us that this is just nonsense. I think, look, I never thought Brady Tkachuk would remain an Ottawa Senator. I never did. I've been saying that for a while, well before this. So I don't think anything that's going to happen here is going to change that. I don't think Brady having to answer some reporter crying her eyes out in the locker room, asking him questions over and over again, demanding an apology for something. I don't think that's going to change anything. And the other thing, Russ, like, I got to be honest, like, I don't think these guys really care that much. I really don't. It's a nuisance. But, just like I've been talking about the Austin Matthews discourse as far as the world paints Austin Matthews. And I said, I'm part of that, by the way. Like, we attack the shit out of Austin Matthews. He shouldn't be the captain. Why is he our leader? We did it during Four Nations. We did it leading into here. And the question that Reamer comes on our show every other week, and we talked about with him, is like, why does everybody who's not in the locker room or in the know or paid to be involved have an opinion that is different than every player and every GM, former Cup winner, every coach? Like, Mike Sullivan has won 2 Stanley Cups with Sidney Crosby. He wanted Austin Matthews as his captain.
Yep.
Every player on Team USA couldn't wait to tell everybody Austin Matthews is our leader and a winner. So, like, we all have a perception that is different than the people who are actually the people who have won and who make the decisions. So maybe we are wrong. Maybe the fans and the media are wrong about Austin Matthews. Maybe the players respect him so much that they put the C on a guy when you could have picked 9 other guys to be the captain, right? And so I'm
actually going to, and by the way, that's the thing later on in the show, like after I release you to go like live your life and not have to deal with other shit on this show, like the perception versus reality thing, like this is the thing I led off with, but like the NFLPA stuff came out and you have all these grades on the Eagles, their coaches, their facilities and everything. And so like, that goes to show you that like there is a different feeling in a locker room versus what the media portrays versus what the fans believe. Like, and I think that that's one of those crossover things here. Like it definitely is. Yeah. Listen, Austin Matthews from a stat perspective in the gold medal game was not lighting the world on fire, right? And I jokingly, like I put a tweet out that like he should pay for Connor Hellebuck's bar tabs from now until the end of time. But it was also because if the U.S. loses that game, there's that play early in the gold medal game where Austin Matthews chooses to pass instead of shoot, and I think that follows him. Like I think that becomes part of that media and fan narrative that like he can't deliver in the big game, and instead you're looking at the image of Connor Hellebuck making that incredible save, right? So I do think that there's a certain level of criticism and critique that Matthews faces because he's the captain of the Leafs. And that carries over. And like the Leafs failure isn't just on Austin Matthews. It was also on Mitch Marner. It's been on John Tavares. Like it's been on multiple guys up there. The failure of that team to advance, I think kind of, it's not like a stink that's on Matthews, but like I kind of wonder if he were to go elsewhere, do we see a fundamentally different player? Do we see a guy that is able to hoist a Stanley Cup? Because I don't think he's ever going to win one in Toronto. Yeah. And if I were him, I would look to get out of Dodge.
Yeah. Wait, can I make a comment about the Eagles? I don't get to talk about the Eagles ever publicly.
Sure.
So like, Jeremy Bloom is my cousin, and he was an Eagles draft pick in 2006, 5th round, punt kick returner. And I remember during his tenure with the Eagles, I remember going to like multiple games. I was a high school kid at the time, and his first year with the Eagles, him and his fiance, they actually lived with us. We had plenty of room, so they lived there, and then he moved out and got his own place that second summer. But I remember being in like the family room at the Eagles games and being like, holy shit, like this is brutal. Like this is the NFL, this is the Eagles. So like when I read this tweet that you put out with these grades, and I saw the stuff about family members, I remember thinking, I've got a little visitor here, but I remember thinking,
oh, look at that.
You have to make sure that you're quiet if you're going to sit with me. Okay, sweetheart. I remember thinking like, wow, I'm not surprised. Nothing has changed here with the Philadelphia Eagles with their treatment of players' families. Cause I was a player's family at one point of the organization. And I just always remember being like, this is ridiculous.
It's crazy too, because like if you look at this, here are the grades, and again, this is why the NFL is mad, because they didn't want these grades coming out. Like they had talked to the NFLPA about it, and it got leaked. So the Eagles got A's for home game field, food and dining area, training staff, weight room gets an A-, strength coaches and position coaches all get an A-, defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, good Italian boy, A+, special teams coordinator A, head coach A. But among their lowest grades, locker room D, treatment of families C+, offensive coordinator C+, team travel F. Treatment of families to me is something that, like, of all the things as an organization for you to like have in your control, have in your power, I mean, at worst you should be at like a B.
Yeah.
Right? How do you get a C+? So like, what do you if you're one of those players, what do you think goes into that grade, into that decision? Like, what makes a team better in that regard than others?
Well, listen, I just think there's a way to look out for families, especially when new players come. Like I'll never forget when my buddy Kevin Shattenkirk signed with the New York Rangers, like the red carpet that they rolled out for him, they sent a plane. They started sending right away. They were like, here's schools for your kids that we've already looked at for you. Here's a realtor for you. Like you just go above and beyond really, really quickly to make sure that families feel really comfortable with their move. Sorry about this.
No, that's okay. I've got 4 kids. It's okay. I like kid chatter in the back is totally fine. Don't worry about it. It's A-okay.
By the way, like if you saw pictures of me when I was a little kid, like we're actually.
I'm looking at her right now, and I see like if you switched hats, if you put the hat on her right now, I'd just put her on the mic.
Exactly. So so I think those are really, really easy things to do, and like I'm really surprised because like the Eagles should do that. It's the Eagles. It's a big market team. It's a team that's won a bunch of titles in the last number of years. They've had big time players. They give out big time contracts. Like so, I'm really disappointed in that, and I'd be curious to hear how it is for the Flyers these days, because I know when Ed Snyder was in charge, families felt like they were every bit a part of the team, and they are every bit a part of their team. Like you need families to be really invested, because it takes more than just the players showing up every day for you to get the best out of your players. When families are super invested, I believe it creates a better culture around the team. And like you just feel more welcome and involved. I think it's really, really important. So I was disappointed as an Eagles fan. I was really disappointed to see that. I really was. The one thing that stood out to me that I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. Well, so it's funny because Bush and JJ were on our show at the Carnival, and that was one of the things that Bush said still is one of the major selling points for the Flyers is that as guys talk around the league, it does seem like there was a dip, right? Like post Snyder, post Peter Lugo, the crew that came in, the Dave Scott, the Val Camillo regime, got a lot more corporate feeling, and since Hilferty's been in charge, it sounds like that family treatment thing has kind of gone back closer to the Snyder days. So like, listen, I think ultimately, especially if you are trying to be an organization that's going to be able to attract players, and the Flyers are at a critical juncture here, right? Like where they desperately need players to want to come here. And because free agency doesn't exist this year, you're going to need guys that might have you on a no move list to waive that. And one of the easiest and best ways for you to do it is to make it known that you treat families well. That if you land here, they're going to go above and beyond to make the transition easy, right? And so for the Eagles, it's just wild. Like I honestly didn't know how to react to it. I thought it was truly disappointing, especially for being a team that recently won a Super Bowl, a team that, Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, they in the past have said the gold standard. Well, C+ for treatment of families isn't the gold standard, So
thanks for letting me talk about that, by the way. I'm not qualified to talk about actual football. I'm just a fan who likes to yell at the television on Sundays. And when we don't like what the offense looks like, I blame the offensive coordinator like every other fan in Philadelphia, right?
He also kind of stunk.
But I'm not qualified to tell you why the offensive coordinator stinks. I could just tell you something's not right. So I do appreciate that you're giving me the floor to talk a little football and a little bit of Eagles with you. I do appreciate that.
Of course. I have one last thing for you, one last question, right? And this will be the last thing. And this is a Flyers-ish thing. Before they took the ice against the Rangers, I can't remember if it was right before the final or before the first game back from the break. Konecny, who looked absolutely wiped before the Olympic break, he just looked emotionally drained and very clearly disappointed that the team was going to miss the playoffs again. He said in essence to NBC Sports Philly that the team needs to add talent. In a nice way, he was kind of like, listen, this team isn't good enough. He's saying the same thing that I say and that you say and that many people are saying. They don't have the talent to be a legitimate playoff threat, a legitimate cup contending threat. They also aren't so incredibly bad that they can go get that elite talent. He has not wanted to move. He has been a guy who's been very resolute in staying here. The organization has been very resolute in this idea that he needs to be the spiritual leader of the team. Given where things are at, they are not going to make the playoffs. Cool, they beat the Rangers. They're not making the playoffs. This thing is pretty much donezo. Do you think that there is an openness on his part that, you know what, offseason comes around, and if it looks like this is going to be another rough thing, they don't add in free agency, and it's going to be another year where you're sort of in this purgatory state. Maybe you fall apart and you get a top 10 pick. Maybe you don't and you pick 14, 15. Do you think that at some point he looks at this organization and says, listen, guys, I love it here. I love my teammates. I love the whole thing. But I'd like to be on a winner at some point. Do you think that he's going to get closer to that point?
Of course, because human nature, he's a competitive guy. I think it was probably hard for him to watch the Olympics and not be there. Having played at the Four Nations. So I'm sure that was a little bit of a tough pill to swallow, watching all those star players play together. I know he recently, in the last couple of years, he built a new home in Haddonfield. Him and his wife just posted on social media the other day that they're having a third child. They're having a little girl. He's really got his roots here. And I do personally think, knowing him and being at some weddings with him and having an opportunity to talk to him and his wife, he really is when we think of a Philadelphia Flyer, it's why I always say Brady Tkachuk is such a Flyer. His bones would be so good here, the way that he plays. I do feel part of Travis Konecny's DNA really does fit here. When you think about what has made the Flyers good, maybe not for the last little stretch, but what we grew up on. Right. Yep. I think Travis Konecny really fits that mold. And I think that's probably something that Danny and Jonesy wrestle with when they look at him, because he does have value. He's a very talented player. He probably realizes that he's not the guy who's going to drive the bus, but he certainly can be flanking the driver of the bus. If you have Travis Konecny playing with a star, he's not going to slow a star down. He's going to be able to play with a true number one center. Or fit himself somewhere in your top six and be a guy who can really contribute in a lot of different ways, because he plays way bigger than his size. I think he'd be a really good playoff player because he has so much fuck you in his game. But it's just one of the reasons that I yelled and screamed and said, I don't care if you have to say bye to Michkov, go get Quinn Hughes. You need talent. You need it. Star talent wins. Okay, look at the Florida Panthers' last two Stanley Cups. They were littered with stars and then support players. You had Seth Jones on the blue line. Then you had Gustav Forsling, who's that perfect support player. Sasha Barkov is a star. Matthew Tkachuk is a star. Brad Marchand is a star. Yes, he's 37. You need star players to win when the games get really, really hard. We just saw at the Olympics, okay?
Yep.
There were 40 players, right, between the U.S. and Canada, whatever. Like, I'm rounding up. 20 skaters dressed for those games, 21 skaters, whatever it was. Only half those guys were even good enough to play in that game. Only half of them, right? Like, it wasn't like every guy was good enough. By the way, Travis Sanheim, to me, had a great Olympics. I was so happy with how he played. I hope people outside of this market finally open their eyes to what this guy is. Is he a true star number one to carry it or no? But boy, is he the perfect 1B.
Correct.
Like, boy, is he's a first pair defenseman, right? Imagine him.
I had Adam Kimmelman on from NHL.com on Wednesday, and he compared Sanheim to like Kimmo Timonen. It's like you've got a guy who's just like that perfect, like, complimentary top pair guy, and he solidified himself there. Like, for the longest time, it felt like Sanheim was only going to be a second pair guy.
No,
and he's played himself really onto that radar in a big way.
Like, when that game got really tight, he could skate at the pace. There were how many guys couldn't keep up with the pace of that game? Parayko couldn't. Stanley, Doughty couldn't. There were a lot of guys that couldn't keep up with the pace. Travis Sanheim had no issue playing at the pace of that gold medal game. And so, again, I've gotten pushback from our friends in Canada that come on our shows, like people that that run Oilers, like Tyler Yaremchuk. He comes on our show a lot. He's a huge part of our network over at Daily Faceoff and Nation Network. Like, they didn't like Sanheim. And I'm like, what were you watching? I thought Sanheim was perfect at the role. He got 14 minutes a night. He made the most of it. He could skate. He got up and down the ice. I mean, yeah, it's a great comment by Landros here that they almost traded him for Torrey Krug. Like, now,
and Krug wouldn't waive the no move. So
that is one of the luckiest things ever. So
it was maybe the only good signing Chuck Fletcher ever made as the president of hockey ops, as the Flyers. So it's wild stuff.
I want more recognition for how good of an Olympic Travis Sanheim low-key had. When you really go watch his shifts, go watch how effective he was, go watch how well he defended. But you need more talent in Philadelphia, and Michkov is going to be a talent. Martone is a talent. They're both going to be good players for the Flyers for a long time, but you're going to need more than that. You're going to need that center. You're going to need that defenseman. And in order to get those people, okay, and have them here long-term, you're going to have to say bye to good things. Because
lower the ceiling, lower the floor, lower the ceiling, lower the floor. Rasmus Ristolainen, God bless,
If you don't like a player, chances are they don't like him either, right?
Yeah.
You're like, Owen Tippett's no good. Let's offer him for Quinn Hughes. It's like, no, there's a reason.
That's not how that works.
There's a
Correct.
reason you don't like Owen. So, I hope Travis Konecny can get the support that he's looking for. He knows what he is and who he needs around him, and he's a competitive guy. And so, again, if you're counting on Brink and Cates to lead you to the playoffs, it's going to be tough. And I think Danny and Jonesy are a lot smarter, and they do know what they're doing. And I do think they're going to have to be patient until the right one comes along. They didn't like the Quinn Hughes thing. It wasn't right for them for whatever reason. I hope when they feel like it's right, they'll go all in and they will strike, because if they don't, where are you going? Where are you
Hockey
going?
Purgatory, baby. Hockey purgatory.
So,
Colby, thank you for being here. I appreciate it as always.
All right.
I held you here longer than I anticipated.
Right. I love with you. You know that. And I, even though Flyers fans have been pretty angry with me this year, I have a sweet spot in my heart for them because they're passionate people. And I grew up as a Flyers fan. So I get it. And I love you. Thanks for having me on. I'll talk to you soon. All right.
Yep. Make sure you go check out Morning Cup of Hockey with Colby, with Johnny. Have a good one. Bye to the little one.
Say bye.
Bye.
See you guys.
There we go. All right. We have a couple of things to get to really quickly before we head out. One, the Sixers had quite a moment last night. Tyrese Maxey set a record that, I have to be honest, it's not that I didn't think would ever be broken. But when you look at how old Tyrese Maxey is and how many games he's played, this was one of the most incredible things I've seen in a long time. Tyrese Maxey passed Allen Iverson for the most three-pointers made in Sixers history. He's 25 years old. He has now passed AI. He will easily get to 1,000 plus three-pointers. I'm actually kind of surprised in a way that Iverson was the all-time leader. Now, I do want you to kind of go back. And I was talking to my wife about this morning, and she's like, well, was Iverson that much of a three-point threat? And I was like, well, no, he took a lot of threes. Remember, my issue with Iverson was always that he was just such an inefficient player. He would chuck up a lot of threes. He didn't hit nearly as consistently. Now, the league is different now. Iverson was fearless getting to the hoop, right? Like, we all know that. But Maxey, man, 25 years old, and he's already hit 886 threes, right? Past Iverson at age 25. Again, when you look at the future of this team, when you look at the future of what the Sixers could be, should be, hopefully will be, Maxey is a huge part of it. And the other guy I wanted to shout out from last night was VJ Edgecombe. We're going to dive into this more on Monday. But VJ Edgecombe, he stood up for Joel Embiid in a really big way, in a way that you don't typically expect a rookie to. And I want to go over to what VJ Edgecombe had to say about Joel Embiid and about whether or not the media criticism of Joel Embiid is fair. This is VJ Edgecombe last night post-game about Joel Embiid and his play since coming back from injury. I want to be really clear. We all know how positive I've been about Tyrese Maxey and the positivity that he brings to the table, right? I can't tell. I think I froze. There we go. Like, we all know that I'm about as high on anybody, as I am as high on Tyrese Maxey as anyone else. VJ Edgecombe is a rookie, standing up for the vet on the team, standing up for the guy that has been an MVP, the guy that's largely this year, he's had long stretches where he's looked kind of like almost prime Joel Embiid again. A guy who could have given up a whole bunch of times, and I get a lot of money. There's a ton of money, and you paid millions of dollars. You have to figure it out. Woe is me kind of stuff. I get what the detractors say. It has to be incredibly frustrating on a human level if you are constantly trying to get back out and play the game that you love. You're aware of the fact you're making all this money. You're playing in a tough media market. You're playing in a tough sports market. And yet Joel Embiid continues to try to battle back. The fact that VJ Edgecombe feels as safe, secure, whatever, in himself and his ability and where he stands with the organization and the city, the fact that he came out the way that he did and stood up on behalf of Joel Embiid, man, that is a true leader in the making. When you combine that with Maxey, it's very easy to see why people are so positive about what this team could be in the future. Now, next week, we will dive more into the Sixers. We'll talk about the Phillies, the Eagles, plenty more. We'll, of course, come back around to the Flyers. I know that we went 2 hockey guests this week, but I hope that you enjoyed having people on the show as well. I'm trying to mix in some more guests, so hopefully today was another good one for you. Do me a favor if you haven't done so already. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Ring the bell to get notified whenever we go live with an episode. If you find short-form content on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, do us a favor, like that. Share the clips, like the accounts, follow the accounts, whatever. And if you like the podcast feed, you can certainly go over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe there as well. Do me a favor, leave a 5-star rating. If you can on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review, and I'll read it on the show. Until Monday, this has been the Russ Joy Show, and I've been Russ Joy, but you knew that already because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. Talk to all of you on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Talk to each and every one of you on Monday here on the Russ Joy Show. Bye now.